I guess I started drinking and using when I was young, so a lot of people, about 14, 15. I'm 38 years old now, so that's most of my life. It's like 24 years. So it's interesting, like, I can't really remember I mean, I've been sober for about a month and a half now, and it is sort of like being born again, sort of like finding myself again, dealing with having like a sober brain, dealing with just sort of having a normal life. I'm out of work at the moment because I had an accident, broke my back at the beginning of the year, so that wasn't so great, and I got let go from my work, which is a bit disappointing. But it's probably the best thing that's happened to me, funnily enough, breaking my back and having the injury, because it's given me time to focus on myself, focus on getting over addiction. Drug addiction was one thing. Actually, I was alright with the drugs, really. I was doing pretty much everything you can think of. Had trouble with like cocaine and then crack addiction. But it's the type of people that you come across in that world that help me stay away from it. It's quite a dark world. It's not very pleasant. The people are quite deceptive, manipulative, toxic in general, and that's the opposite of how I like to be. Always smoked weed, which I don't really have a problem with, but I don't smoke weed anymore. It does affect my mental health. Anxiety, paranoia started to creep in, and so yeah, I'm quite happy to stay away from it. Drinking decaf coffee, so yeah, lots of water, lots of decaf. But the alcohol was really the hardest thing. I mean, like, physical dependency, mental dependency. You know, I didn't even really enjoy the taste of it by the end. But you know, I wake up every day shaking, sweats, feeling very sick. You know, throwing up and things if I don't get a drink in me, so it was almost like it had to be done. But because I had the accident, I had plenty of time to think, and economy came into play. You know, I was running out of money, you know, spending all my money on it, and I just couldn't really afford it either. And obviously my physical health was really bad, like deteriorating. I've damaged my liver as a result. Scars on the liver, and I spoke to the GP, and they were basically like, you know, it's good that you stopped drinking now and taking drugs, because you were basically on the sort of precipice of, you know, the point of no return almost. And that's very worrying at the age of 38. You know, I wouldn't mind living a life, a proper life, a normal life, like I said. So I went to CGL in Cambridge, up Mill Road, and they were very good. They looked after me, got me into groups, you know, checking my physical well-being periodically, and they said, hey, if we can get you funding for a detox, like a 2-week detox, we take it, Jared. And I was like, yes, 100%. So I got a call one day, I think it was a Thursday, and then they were like, can we pick you up on Monday at 8 in the morning? And I was like, yeah, 100%. To say, you know, just do what I did, go to CGL, seek help, seek advice. But I don't know, I think a lot, you know, I'll pause, you know, breathe, you know, distract myself somehow, maybe lift some weights for a bit, usually take the dog for a walk. And I like cooking, so I'll cook some meals and stuff. I've been eating a lot healthier, so that's good. And that's kind of what I do. I wouldn't mind, I don't pray or anything, but I have thought about getting into like meditation and stuff like that. Yeah. But again, it's just sitting still for too long in silence is quite difficult for me.
Well, they got walking meditation.
Yeah.
You know, you could meditate while walking the dog.
I think that's it. Like,
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like in the shower as well, you know, things like that. It's just about looking into techniques, I guess. It's quite new, actually. You know, I wasn't very hygienic and things like that. You know, I was, you know, letting myself slide. I was quite malnourished, and yeah, it wasn't very good. There was nothing good about it, really. You know, looking back, it seems like insanity. You know, and they say like insanity is the same. Try and do the same thing, expecting different results. You know, and that's, I guess, what I was doing. You know. I do have a lot of issues in my head. Like I say, I've lost my mother unexpectedly. Friends have passed away, suicide, drug abuse, and it's just, you know, that's all I can really remember, if anything at all, from the last sort of like, especially the last 10 years, where I've been drinking heavily, like, you know, thinking of a litre of vodka a day. I mix it with Coke, and that seemed to kind of like make me feel a little bit better about using it, but yeah, it's never helped. It never helped me really. It just brought me down. It affected my relationships. Ended up in a toxic relationship, which just kind of revolved around drinking drugs, and yeah, I just didn't really have anything, you know. I've got a lot of stuff, but not half as much as I did. I've sold a lot of things to help, how you say, pay for the drink and the drugs.
So, what would you say to a younger version of you? If you could say something to yourself now, is there anything that you would say? Any
Well,
advice?
I guess just avoid those first hits, because at first it's just fun and games, you know. And, you know, some people are addicts and some people aren't, it would seem, you know. Some people can put it down and some people can't, and I'm just one of those people that can't. And it's just you know, just a warning, you know, heed these words, you know, like, it's not for everyone really. It's all fun and games at first, but after 20 odd years of it, it's not fun anymore, especially when you're doing it alone. That's the kind of big red flag, when you're finding more satisfaction from drinking and taking drugs when you're on your own. So there were plenty of events, plenty of you know, times when I could have gone out and like lived, you know, done things. You know, I'm getting invites, which I don't get anymore, which is a shame. But getting invites out to different events and just being like, no, basically making my excuses and just not going and spending the day at home, not really doing anything, not pursuing any hobbies, you know, not pursuing any potential talents, and just basically finding satisfaction, for lack of a better term, in loneliness and isolation with just the bottle or the pipe or whatever you like as a friend, really. And that's not a way to live, is it? It's actually a way to die, slowly but surely. And I'm not suicidal, which is good. I have a thirst for life, and the drink and the drugs seem to just numb that. It did also numb my thoughts, you know, my paranoid thoughts, you know, anxieties and things like that. They go away for a short time, but it's only a matter of time before they come back, and no amount of drink really helps. And it's always the first one that's good, you know, like in the morning, you know, wake up at whatever o'clock in the morning, you bosh a big old vodka, Coke or whatever, and for like maybe 10-15 minutes you're like, okay, you know, this is alright. But come the second or the third, it's just more a habit or a bad habit that just spirals out of control. I get quite aggressive, you know. I don't take it out on people. I never hit people or anything. I'm not violent. Like, I don't even like violence. I don't like boxing or UFC or anything. So it's not like it's something that I appreciate in any way, shape or form. But you know, I have broken things, you know, smashed plates. Never really self-harmed, but I have like banged my head against the wall, literally, you know, punched walls, things like that. And then eventually you just get the blackouts, where you just drink so hard that you don't remember anything, you don't know what you've done. I've woken up in strange places. It's quite frightening. And just the thought that anything could have happened, you know. Sometimes I come home and my house is just wide open, and it's, I've just left the door wide open, you know, and anyone could have got in and done anything really to the house or even to me. So it's frightening, and these are all things that you kind of just ignore for a time. But you know, ignorance is not bliss, really, even though they say that. It's, you know, you can't ignore these telltale signs that you have a problem that needs to be dealt with. And you know, being quite an independent person, you know, I've lived abroad alone a lot, I've travelled alone, you know, I can deal with myself generally speaking, but you know, with no real family close and stuff like that, it's, you know, I've learned to be responsible for myself, but taking drink and drugs is not a responsible attitude, and it's not a responsible means to an end in any way, shape or form. So it's the night times that are the worst, really. Lying there with your own thoughts, you know. Good to have a drink to help you get to sleep. That's another thing, you know, like being unconscious was more preferable than being conscious after a while, which again is not living, is it? You know, not achieving anything. And it's just really sad when I think back all the time that I've wasted when I could have actually accomplished something, anything really, you know.
So where would you like to be in 20 years' time?
20 years' time? Oh wow, well, it'd be nice to have a good family on the go. Pass on my knowledge and my experiences to anyone that cares to listen and that I can help. And yeah, it'd be nice to have a kid, maybe two, you know. Raise them, you know. The world's a scary place, you know, but it's just to have purpose, to have meaning in my life is what I'd really like to accomplish, to make a difference in a positive way, you know. And yeah, see my addiction not as like a waste, but as a sacrifice for like other people, my family, my friends, and if I have kids, you know, like things like that. I think that's a good way to put it, like not to be a waste, because that then you don't learn anything from it, you know. So yeah, to say that I've sacrificed part of my life for the greater good is a good way of turning the frown upside down and making a positive out of a negative. So that's what I look forward to, getting back into work. I'm looking into getting training in the social side of things, getting to social care, volunteering, and eventually getting a paid job whereby I'm helping people in recovery and with mental health, and just being a supportive avenue for anyone that needs it, really, in the long run. Well, going back to the CGL lot, they're all very supportive. I mean, like, I'm not, I guess you could say, I mean, they're all very pleased with my attitude, my desire for sobriety, and just my manners, you know. So they were very, you know, I was a very polite person, very considerate and very appreciative of their efforts, and so they, how you say, responded in a likewise way, you know. They're very polite and very kind, and they really pushed for me to get this detox. They put me sort of like near the top of the list, as it were. That's what they were saying. They were going to try their hardest to get me there. And, you know, I'm not one of those people that's been sort of in and out of rehabs, in and out of jail, you know, almost playing the system, if you will. You find some people that seem to be doing. I was, you know, I was in it to win it, you know. I really wanted to recover and be in recovery and never go back to any of that. And so they were very supportive. So yeah, they definitely helped me, and then the people in the groups, just looking at the way that they, you know, were helping me and others was inspiration to then follow in their lead, really. On the flip side, I guess when you get certain key, like, so in the recovery centre, the rehab centre, some of the staff, most of the staff were perfectly fine, but some of them seemed to have a preconception, and that made it kind of a hurdle.
What kind of preconception did you sense they had?
Well, they were quite short in terms of, not in stature, but in terms of the way they treated people. I guess they'd been doing it for a long time and had just sort of lost the enthusiasm for it, maybe, and so they were just a bit kind of like, you'd approach them and they wouldn't really be that almost interested, really. You know, you get a lot of people rolling their eyes and things, and not being that respectful, really, and that kind of made it a tiny bit difficult.
A tiny bit?
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, I kind of...
Because you're in a very vulnerable place.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
What did you need from those people instead of what you got?
Well, I mean, just to be treated more like a person, really. Just like someone who's got a problem, an illness, and someone that just a tiny bit of respect really is all. And I can see why some people were getting agitated and arguing and things like that, but then that's never really going to help your case. But the one thing is that, you know, some people get into this line of work because they believe in it and they want to make a difference, and other people, it would seem, might just get into it because it's a job and it's just going to pay their rent, you know. And that's the funny thing about healthcare in general. It's like, you know, they need to be in it because they believe in it and they believe in the welfare of people and the goodness in people, and just try and help support that and help support the recovery. But when you're trying to get their attention and they just, you know, yeah, later because they're reading their paper or something, it's like, that's not so great. And but like I said, I was very, very determined to reach sobriety and not let anything stop me, basically. So that's that.
That's
not
awesome.
had much interaction with police, luckily. I stayed off the radar. I mean, I think the only times I've really come across police, they've been fairly reasonable in the long run, I believe.
Yeah. What about mental health? Have you had any or the hospital with your broken back? Did you have any good or bad experiences?
Yeah, the broken back was a funny one. I mean, like, they weren't very communicative. I mean, I used to work in the NHS. I worked there for like 10 years, and I remember it being a lot different. But they just weren't very communicative, and they kind of left me there, didn't really advise me in anything. So I had a back injury, you know, but they were just left me on a bed, you know. I was moving around, doing things, you know, I had to help myself to the toilet, and it was just agony. It was very difficult, and wasn't really much support. And then after about 8 hours, they just sort of gave me all the scans and things like that, and they were like, right, you've got a fractured spine on the right side, and your left knee is heavily bruised with ligament and cartilage damage or whatever they were saying. And so as a result, the two injuries, left side and right side, it was very difficult to walk. I mean, I couldn't actually walk for about a week, but they still just let me go on the same day. They just sent me on my way. And luckily, a friend of mine was working that day in the hospital, and he gave me a lift home. And then I had other friends come through. They just sort of stayed for a thick end of a week and just helped me move around the flat. So mainly it's the support of my friends, my support network, as they call it. It's definitely helped me get through this. All of their kind words saying, you know, you're getting really bad, Jared, you know, you're drinking too much, you know, you're using too much, you know, we really want you to change, you know, we don't want to lose you, you know. And that was a drive for me. They talk about higher power and stuff like that in AA and in recovery, and a lot of people turn to God and things, but my higher power was my friends and my relationships and my want to just sort of be there for them in the future if they ever need me. And that wasn't going to happen if I was, you know, drunk or worse, dead, basically. And yeah, the physical wealth of my liver and stuff, that was a scare. But they told me about 2 years ago that I needed to stop drinking, and I didn't. So that's you know, again, just being too physically and mentally dependent on it, really. And I was still dealing with the loss of my mother. I still deal with that. I found her dead in the morning. She passed away overnight. Found her on the sofa. That wasn't so great. And then and also I had a cat I'm very close to, and someone killed it. Found him dead in the morning as well. So mornings aren't so great. I have trouble leaving the house in the mornings, and again, you know, the drive to get to the shop to get my drink, that helped me to get out. Or I'd quite often try and leave a little bit for the morning so I could swig that, and that would give me the confidence to leave the house. But again, that's a dependency, which is the opposite of responsibility. So yeah, it's just these are the positives, really, like my friends and the support that I got from CGL and my psychologist in the rehab centre. She was very good.
What made her good? Can you?
She just really listened and made the time for me. They're busy people, they've got a lot of people to look after, but she definitely made the time for me. She could see that I was going to all the meetings, you know, doing all my homework, as it were, like writing my diaries, and just fulfilling all the paperwork they gave me, just writing how I felt at any point in time, and just engaging with the process, which a lot of people didn't really seem to do, which I found peculiar. I wondered why they were there, sort of thing, but some of them had been there for longer than I had, obviously. But even then, they didn't. They seemed to have sort of like a lack of respect for the whole procedure, which I thought was curious. But that's, you know, that's their prerogative, you know.
Mm.
But yeah, Lisa, her name, was my psychologist in rehab. She was very good. She was quite kind of strict, kind of like a maths teacher, if you know what I mean. She was quite strict, but, you know, got the job done. Made sure I understood the paperwork and understood the reasons why I was doing what she was asking me to do, what I was doing. And I had like a bit of a breakdown at one point. I wrote a very curious entry in my diary on like the 10th day, which was really weird. It was just talking about not having my own thoughts, like someone else was thinking for me, afraid of the dark, not wanting to talk to anyone, very paranoid about the other people in the establishment, the people, the residents and the staff. And she came to me after reading it and was like, "Hey Jared, I think you need to stay here for longer and be, how you say, observed for longer." And they tried to get more funding for me. She really pushed for that, as did CGL. So she was in correspondence with the CGL lot, my social worker, who was also called Lisa, funnily enough. And they tried their hardest to get me more funding, which I thought was really awesome, but we didn't get it in the end. So I had to leave, and she was very disappointed in that. And it was just a natural sort of, just she seemed to naturally actually care and really want to help. And obviously she can only do what's within her boundaries, but it seemed like she literally even tried to push her boundaries to the point where she was like, "We need to get this guy to stay," but, you know, money talks, you know, and I can't afford to pay for it myself, so I just sort of accepted it and left.
Yeah, that reminds me. I've heard people say that sometimes we don't believe in ourselves, and we need someone else to believe in us.
Yeah, definitely. Agreed, yeah. Especially when you're in a proper hole and all you really know and all you can really recognise is the drink, really. That's all I really thought about, and all I really saw ahead of me was just more drink, more drink. There wasn't really anything else. I don't even know what I did throughout the day. I'm pretty sure I just sort of paced around the house like a caged animal, really. Quite literally. Didn't go out, didn't have the dog at the time. I got the dog maybe a few months ago. So I had the dog right towards the end of my drinking, which was another reason. I didn't like smoking around the dog or drinking around the dog. I kept breaking glasses and things like that, you know, dropping things, and it's just, you know, it's dangerous, you know, so that was another reason. So yeah, like, the dog was a very good influence.
Responsibility.
Exactly, yeah. And when you need to have a higher reason for living, like a reason to live. If you've got nothing to live for, then you'll just lie down and die, won't you? And that seemed to be what I was doing, just slowly killing myself, which is a shame, you know, because it undermines and disrespects all of the efforts that my late mother put in. You know, she was a single parent. She never got with anybody else or anything like that. You know, she committed, you know, majority of her life to me, and for me, after her passing, for me to just ignore that is, you know, rude, to say the least.
That you were in pain.
Oh yeah, like my friends used to say, "You're hurting, Joe, we can tell." And that's another thing, it's an irony there, because none of them really, other than my old school friends, have ever seen me sober. You know, every day I'd wake up and smoke, wake up and drink. Went on for years and years, like I say, 24 years. So all the partying and that ended after, I mean, I went to university and all that, went to college, uni, so I did the whole 9 yards. I worked, very active addict, you know. For a time I didn't drink or use at work, but before sometimes, definitely after, but eventually that ended, and I was just drinking, you know, at work and before work, and just embarrassing really, a lot of it as well, you know.
How long do you think you were dependent for when you'd have the shakes and the sweats?
Oh wow, years. I mean, like, it took, I mean, because I tried to stop a few times, and that's when I really noticed, because it was just every day I just get up and happily drink, but like, so before I'd even really notice anything. But and also you just kind of ignore it, and it becomes normal, you know, like say like you get, you know, if you get like an injury or something, you just walk it off. It was almost like that. It was just normal to wake up feeling that way, but after a while it was just really unacceptable, and it was already too far gone by that point. Like I had to, I think that my record was something like 5 hours or something over 10 years without a drink, you know.
Wow. So do you understand about being dependent and the risks of stopping drinking?
Oh yeah, I mean, like seizures and things like that. I never had a major seizure, but definitely some really bad shakes. Woke up in the night and things had moved around and things like that. So I'd obviously, something had happened in the middle of the night, you know, knocking things over, involuntary spasms, you know, like you lose the grip in your hands and stuff like that really randomly. You'd be holding like a glass and it just goes, falls out of your hand. Things like that, you know, and it's just worrying, it's scary, and then, you know, you can't keep food down, you can't, you know, it comes out either way, you know, and then you're not really, you might eat food, but you're not actually getting any proper nutrition out of it. You know, when you're really just consuming liquid, you know, it's not very pleasant, you know, not to go into any details, but it's not very nice, it's quite disgusting actually. But again, you just get used to it, because all you care about is a drink. Well, I've never got so bad as to like, you get people who drink their own sick and things like that. I've never got that bad, but when you've got no alcohol, I have definitely looked around for ways to drink what I can, you know.
Do you know the author Stephen King?
Of course.
I listened to his sort of him telling his own story in a recent book, and he was drinking some kind of medicine out of the medicine cabinet, some kind of mouthwash.
Yeah, you look at that kind of stuff. Yeah,
like, it's alcohol, isn't it? So
yeah, and like
desperate.
in the hospital, you get the hand sanitizer, especially post-COVID and that. You had all the hand sanitizer kicking about, and it just smells like alcohol, and you know, it gets your mouth starts to water. It's very triggering, you know what I mean? And you're looking at it, you know what I mean? You're thinking, cool, man, I could just have a swig of that in the toilet, you know what I mean? But again, I never got that far, because I always knew I had actual alcohol around, you know. So whether that's a good thing or not, I don't know. Ultimately a bad thing, but at least I never drank the hand sanitizer or you know, keeping my own sick in the fridge for the next day.
Yeah,
that's quite bad. I mean, like, I've woken up in a pool of my own sick a couple of times. Luckily, I was lying on my front, not my back. So who knows how bad that could have been.
Yeah.
And I've never been hospitalised because of alcohol poisoning, but I've definitely been hospitalised as a result of drinking and having accidents. Definitely. So that's quite dangerous again. But all you're really doing when you're sitting in the hospital is just waiting for them to leave. So you're lying to them, saying you're okay. It's just so you can get out of there and get home and have a drink, and then that numbs the pain. You know what I mean? Wake up the next day, you're in agony. You just drink more, goes away, and then you're not really looking after your injuries, and they get exacerbated. And you end up realising you're a lot older, that you feel a lot older than you should be. At 38 or whatever, got a lot of problems, you know. And it's just not great, you know. And that's why I want to turn it around, you know, for the purpose of being there for other people and maybe having a family and living a life. But it's a bit scary to think that it might be too late, maybe, who knows. I guess it's never too late, really. Like I say, the doctor said I've nipped it in the bud just in time.
Yeah.
Which is good news.
Yeah.
The only real good news I've had in a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, my problems are my own. I never, like I say, I'm quite responsible in that respect. So I never sort of like, it's very rare that I ask for people for anything, really. I mean, it was quite difficult to go to CGL and ask for their help, but it was just literally like, it had to be done. I have tried to quit on my own. Like I said, I got over the cocaine on my own and the crack, a little bit of heroin, but I never injected it or anything. So I think I skipped a sort of dodge to put it there. But I was always more into my uppers anyway, even though alcohol is a downer, but it does. And yeah, I have no desire for anything other than a peaceful life. I don't want fame or riches at all. just a peaceful life, kind of run of the mill. You know, I've had my time. You know, the party's over, and it wasn't really that good a party anyway. So I've been there and done that really. When I was in Mallorca, I played a lot of poker. So I had quite a lot of money then, and that just went on drinking, drugs, and whatever else. And that wasn't fun. I was hanging around with some not very nice people. And again, that's where a lot of my kind of like isolation and kind of like alone drinking, whatever you'd call it, single drinking, whatever you want to call it, that's where that happened, because I didn't really want to hang out with these people. And again, that's what helped me get away from the cocaine and the crack, is because it's just, they're just not nice people. And like you say, I am a nice person, and that's all down to how my mother raised me, and so I don't want to become something that my mother told me not to be, you know. I don't believe in prejudice, racism, any of that kind of stuff, violence. You know, I don't like any of it. And that's in me, you know what I mean? And I didn't want to be that kind of guy that ended up doing bad things just to support my habits, you know. So yeah, definitely the street drugs I got away from on my own near enough, pretty much on my own. But yeah, the alcohol was just another matter, really different. I mean, to be honest, I really couldn't have done it alone. And I'm very strong, quite a strong person. My friends say you're very strong. You know, I'm a very strong person, really strong-willed. And I don't know what I would have done otherwise. I needed the help, 100%. I couldn't have done it alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you deserve to get help. You're worth having help.
Of course, yeah. I guess everyone deserves, you know, everyone deserves the help, really. No matter how bad you are, really. There's always, as long as you want to change, then you deserve the help. But I guess some people just don't want to change deep down inside. They enjoy it. Some people are quite malicious or sadistic, you know.
Or
it's hard to explain.
we feel bad about ourselves. We feel like we're rubbish, and then when we use or drink, then we feel more rubbish.
Yeah.
And then we feel even more like we don't deserve to get help, and so it can just become more and more isolated.
Yeah. Yeah. Some people seem to revel in it. And
you've got this spark of like you're gonna survive, you're gonna succeed, you're gonna
survive's a good word. Like I'm determined to live a life now, because I really haven't done. Like, I mean, I'm lucky in the fact that I did adhere to my ma's teachings, and I did the whole college thing. And I mean, it was a different time back when I was young, you know. It was very kind of pushed down your throat, you know, get your GCSEs, get your college A levels, go to university, get a good job. That was kind of the given thing. So pretty much everybody I know did that. Plus I'm born and raised Cambridge, so that helps as well, you know. We weren't ever well off, really, you know. My mum worked as, I think she worked in insurance for a while. It's like not in insurance, but she worked in an insurance establishment and was like the secretary or something. So she's always just been like a desk secretary type person. So never lots of money kicking about, which I guess creates a sort of humble aspect when it comes to riches. I don't really need it. I know how to get along without it. So yeah, I don't really need much more than just a peaceful life now.
Okay, have you got any advice to someone who's they're thinking maybe my use is a problem and maybe I should do something about it, but they're not sure? Have you got any advice you would give?
Well, I guess once the seed is planted, if you're thinking to yourself, hey, this is probably a problem, and probably because it is, and it's just that one, you know, it's like a crossroads, isn't it? You know, the thing is with change is that it's quite difficult more often than not, and generally people don't like change, but change is usually a good thing, like usually, especially if it's an evolution, right? If you stay in the same place, you're not going to achieve anything, and you're not going to grow. And if something doesn't grow, it becomes stale, you know. It doesn't change, and it doesn't become anything. And if you're not comfortable with the way you're living, and you've got something inside your mind saying, hey, this isn't great, you should probably go with that and run with it. Because at the end of the day, if it doesn't work out for you, you can always go back. You know, you can always go back to your drink or your drugs, and so you're not really going to lose anything just by giving it a go. And I would always advise, if you've got an opportunity, you should go for it, and you should always go for the opportunity, especially because it's quite easy. I mean, who knows who you are and where you are. But luckily for me, I'm in Cambridge and there's a lot of avenues for help. And it's just a phone call away, really. Go to your GP, let them know what's going on. You know, it's their job and their, you know, it's their responsibility really to help you get to where you want to be. And if sobriety is what you want, then they'll help you get there.
And you can go straight to CGL.
Yeah, or you can go straight to CGL. I mean, there's plenty of things you can call, just the Red Cross, the Samaritans, they'll all listen to you. You know, and just sometimes it's having someone listen to you. Especially if you're hanging around toxic people, if you're in a toxic relationship, maybe your friends are not so great, maybe where you're working isn't that great, if you're not working and you're staying at home, maybe your environment's not that great, you know, just little things. You need to just, if you have got, you know, something telling you inside your mind, hey, I'm not happy, you know, you should probably go for it. And just try it. You know, just try it. You know, you won't know until you try it. You know, try everything once, you know. It's like food, you know, you don't know if you're going to like it unless you try it. So try it, and if you don't like it, just avoid it. Perfectly fine. Yeah. And like they say, sobriety is all one day at a time. You know, I'm not going to drink today. Who knows about tomorrow? I don't want to put that massive strain of response, that massive strain, that fear, that massive task of like, I'm never going to drink or use drugs again. That's scary to think, you know, for the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years, that's a scary thought, you know. That's a lot of chores, you know. It's like when my mum used to say, you do your homework when you get it, bit by bit, because when come the Friday or the weekend, you're going to have to do all your homework in one go, and that's a scary thought, you know. I didn't really listen. I always left my homework to the last minute, and I've always regretted it, because I would have to like do half my Saturday at home and do my homework, and then I wouldn't do it properly, because I just rush it. And anything that's worth doing is worth doing properly and putting in the effort, and that's what I've done. I'm quite proud of it. I've really knuckled down. I've done everything they told me to. I literally just said, you'd quite often get people, they're very kind people, and they're always saying, you know, would you be up for doing this? Would you be willing to do this? Would you reckon you can make the time to come here? And they say, it's like, yeah. I just said yes, just give me my homework and I'll do it all, you know. And if you can't learn from your mistakes, then you can't learn at all, really. Like, and it is a mistake, really, if you find yourself being an addictive person, because some people are just born with an addictive personality. It's not like, I mean, things can turn you to drinking drugs, you know, trauma, abuse, anything really, can turn you to these things, but you know, it's just in your mind. It's kind of like I can't put it down syndrome, whereby you just have to keep going. You can't stop until you pass out, really, eventually, or you die, or you get into recovery and you make the change. But like I said, it's a day-by-day thing. The thought of getting into recovery and the thought of getting sober can seem really daunting, but the concept of higher power works as well, however you want to see it, physically or metaphorically. You know, I'm not going to advise getting into religion or anything like that. It's not for me. But it definitely works for some people. If you can find God or any manifestation of God, Allah or Buddha or anything like that, it's perfectly fine. There's a lot of good teachings within these scriptures. But it's just, you have to have a reason for it as well. You know, your physical being sometimes isn't enough, especially if you're in a hole and you don't feel like you're worthy of it. If you don't feel like you deserve it, then that's a really difficult place to be. It's a really dark place to be, and these professionals can help you pull yourself out of that and give you some self-worth and find your higher power, find a direction, make the right choices, you know, and yeah, just day by day, take it step by step. I can't remember who said it. I think it's a Taoist thing or something, but it's like, you know, every step, even of 10,000 miles starts, every journey even of 10,000 miles starts with a single step. And my single step was basically picking up the phone. And everyone's got a phone these days, you know. I even see homeless people with smartphones and stuff, you know. Everyone's got a phone. Pick it up, you know, and just make the call. Just tell them how you think, how you feel, you know. They're paid to listen. Most of them do care. They do really want to help you. You just gotta want it. Same with anything. Same with picking up an instrument. If you want to learn it, you'll learn it. And the new tasks are very rewarding. When you look back and be like, right, I could do this now. It's It's very rewarding. You know, it's like hitting the gym and seeing your gains and being like, right, I've done that on my own, you know, and then you keep going, you keep persevering, and then you get respect and adoration as a result. Usually people see it's, oh, you've done really well, you're looking really good, you know, you're very positive, you know, and, you know, oh, you're really good at playing that instrument now, and you feel good about life because you're living life, and life is supposed to be lived, and drinking, drugs are not really living, it's more of an avoidance. Like I say, it's fun at first, but yeah, eventually they'll, if you have that addictive personality that I mentioned, it's only a matter of time really before they get hold of you. And it's like a demon or a disease, however you want to look at it, you know. These are all terms that you might come across in recovery. It's like the demons and diseases that, you know, need to be cured or eradicated, you know, because you can't handle them. They can be too powerful, and they start to mess with the way you see life. Your perceptions get messed with, and if you have dark perceptions, they can really control you, you know, because everyone has a different worldview and everyone has a different perception of things. I mean, an easy example is when time flies, you know, if you're having fun, time goes faster, if you're not, time moves slower, you know, so we could each experience the same event, but if I enjoy it, it's going to go faster for me. If you don't, it's going to go slower for you. Same event, same amount of time, just a different perception. And drink and drugs can really alter your perceptions of your relationships, of your surroundings, and especially yourself. And so they're very dangerous in that respect. So yeah, I guess it's just, like I say, trauma and bad events can really exacerbate the need for escapism. But one thing I would say is to deal with any issues, any problems you have. If you have toxic relationships, toxic surroundings, do something to change that. I mean, if you're like me, people say I've got quite a big heart. So I was recently broken up with my ex, and it took me time to do that because I really wanted the best for her. You know what I mean? But another thing you'll hear in recovery, if you ever do that, is you know, you kind of need to start employing a bit of a selfish cloak, whereby you start cutting out the toxic tissues and removing and taking responsibility for these kind of traumas and things, and dealing with it in a kind of more self-centered way. It sounds really horrible, but there's no better way to say it. You know, you kind of really need to start thinking of yourself, and if things aren't helping you, you need to deal with that in your own way. But I mean, I avoided dealing with my mother's passing for a long time, and now mornings are quite difficult. I have like panic attacks. I get afraid, like I've got slight agoraphobia. I can never pronounce it.
Fear of leaving the house.
Going outside and wider spaces and just leaving the house. You know, my house is a safe space, but ironically, because I spent so many years in my house drinking and using, near enough everything in my house is a trigger. So now I've got to deal with that. You know, so it's kind of a paradox. I used to drink to get out of the house. But then how do I get out of the house now? And that's kind of on me because I didn't deal with my problems at the time. I just avoided them.
Is there anybody, like, does CGL know, or do you know whether there's anywhere you can get some help with bereavement? Yeah,
well, the NHS for starters. I mean, you know, it's still a free service, thank Christ. It's only a matter of time, I think, for that changes. But yeah, take advantage of the fact that of all these establishments, these systems, these individuals that are there to help. And like I say, it's so easy to pick up the phone, and if it doesn't work for you, there are alternatives. There are all sorts of different groups, all sorts of different avenues of help, and they're all free. They're all free. I mean, other than like once you get to like rehab and stuff like that, they do cost money, but you can get funding, things like that. Especially if you engage, and you know, you're just a nice person, and you just get along with your key worker, and you get along with your drug counsellor and whatever nurses and GPs that have been assigned to you. They'll do their best to help you, and you'll be surprised with the results. I definitely was. It's about maybe about three or 4 months before they got me the funding for my detox, and then I was 2 weeks in. Very sick at first, very ill, couldn't really eat anything, but they give you the drugs that you need, Librium and things like that, thiamine, vitamin B, things like that. And yeah, you just get through that first sort of like, because if you're dependent on alcohol or maybe like heroin or something like that, obviously you've got to flush it out of your system, and that could be very, very uncomfortable. Things like crack is very moreish, like Pringles. Once you pop, you can't stop, you know. So you've got to get over these kind of like physical and mental hurdles. But if you've got the drive and the want, and especially if you have a reason, it's all about finding a reason and a purpose to go on. And yeah, and it's dark, you know. If you're all alone and you feel you're all alone, you can always meet new people, and that's one thing that I found a real positive, is meeting other people that have been in my predicament, are going through my predicament, and have experience, and you just don't feel the shame. You can just say, "Hi, I'm Jared, I'm an alcoholic and a drug user," and they don't look down on you, they don't think ill of you. All they want to do is help, because they've been through it all as well. And that's where I want to get to, basically. I want to get the experience of sobriety under my belt and start helping people that might need it. And this is just one of the things that I've chosen to do. I've been given the opportunity, and I do think of it as an opportunity to just basically give a bit of advice, and just hopefully this video helps someone one time, anybody. And if not, so be it, but at least it's out there. And I feel like I've done something positive with my day, and it's helped me to not drink and to not use, and it's a positive thing, not a negative. And yeah, I've done something today, and that's good.